This is the Catalyst Effect. I'm your host, Isaac Carter, and we are at Dallas Startup Week, presented by the Debt Council and sponsored by Capital One. I am here with Adi, and the name of your company is?
Sentient Ventures.
We've been having an amazing conversation. We went to lunch, and you want to see people apply technology within a greater business strategy. And when people come to you with a strategy, either problem or a desire to expand a strategy, what is the first thing that you do with that?
Yeah, so firstly, great to be here, Isaac. We had a great conversation at lunch.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
it was awesome.
Yeah, great to continue that. Yeah, so the very first thing I look at is what's driving that mission for the person who's coming and talking to us, right? It's really, so I walked away from a career at Amazon. Prior to that, I spent a lot of time in financial services. Prior to that, a little bit in computer science.
In your career with Amazon, you were helping Fortune 100 and 500 create the strategies for culture, for product development, for whatever different objective that they had.
That's right. So we used to work mainly with Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies.
Sure.
Intention being whatever their core mission was, whether that's, making pharmaceutical products or whether it's building cars, whether it's in finance or retail. The idea was, is there something that we can bring to them from the Amazon stable, right, that can actually help them in their business grow like Amazon has?
Yeah.
Right? So the first obvious one would be the cloud, right?
Sure.
Where can we, perhaps use the cloud to help them? But it's not always limited to the cloud. It was robotics, supply chain, logistics.
They're a powerhouse of logistics, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so each of the different lines of business at Amazon have grown by getting really, really good at each of these things. And so the idea was, can we find a good intersection of which of these things apply to your business, and how can we help you get successful, right, in whatever your outcome is? So it's the same sort of thought process to a question. When someone comes to me, the first question I ask is, what's the outcome you're looking for? Why are you doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah, so if somebody comes in and says, I want robots.
Yeah.
Then you're going to say,
why?
Why?
The
what are you
first
trying to
question
achieve?
Exactly. Like, what exactly are we trying to achieve? Let's back up.
Yeah.
We'll come to the robots. We'll come to your immediate ask. But I like to sort of look at or ask the second and third and fourth questions first to see if there's one alignment, if there's something that genuinely we can help with, or if it's better off if they're on their own and go off to a different path, and perhaps we make introductions where they can go work with someone else, and that's fine. Right? So it's really about alignment.
So a lot of that, it's very, very different from what you experience from most consulting companies. Most consulting companies, the salesperson's job is to sign a contract and begin billing hours. And I have had people on my LinkedIn channel, the salespeople, literally say, hey, you're an engineer, stay out of the lane, let the salespeople handle this. A salesperson's job is to sell something that they can buy into, and the next job is to increase their sales.
That's correct.
So for them,
expand.
and they want you to get into a sunken cost fallacy as soon as possible. I've already spent $5 million, so I need to spend the next $3 million to make sure. Oh, I've already spent $8 million, and now I have to spend. And then the sales team will try to find a way to make that look successful. But you're saying, what are your objectives? Can I help you achieve that objective?
Absolutely. That's the very first thing, because one of the other things that also differentiates us is we don't bill by time and money. So we don't, we're not in the business of exchanging time for money, right? We're in the business of trying to help achieve outcomes. Okay. And those outcomes are usually defined in units of time.
So you tie monetization to success.
That's correct.
That's
absolutely correct, right? Because we generally are vested in the success of our customers, our partners, our ecosystem players, which is why the first questions are always around, let's deep dive into what are we trying to solve for, right? Because if the alignment's there, then we can define what those outcomes are, and from there we can define, what the milestones are, and then where specifically we can help and where we can bring in other ecosystem partners to help achieve the same outcome.
I love that. I had somebody come to me literally yesterday, and they have some of our people on managed services, and they want some strategy and leadership as well. And they showed me what their budget was, and I'm like, well, it's going to be a little tight. And they said, well, what if we offered some equity? And I said, awesome. What does the vesting schedule look like on the equity? And they said, well, maybe every 9 months. I'm like, no. Tie this to success. Give me some milestones so that I know what your objectives are. The value of the company increases based off of success of what?
Yeah.
Okay, let's tie vesting or additional billings or something to that.
Yeah.
And they were surprised but happy by that. And it sounds very similar to what you do.
It really is. And I'm not surprised that they were surprised, because what you were doing is unconventional. Right?
Sure.
Not many people do it that way. Because by doing so, by default, you're taking on most of the risk. Because you're basically saying, I'm okay to invest in this journey with you and not have you pay anything until we reach a certain outcome.
Yeah, and we offset the risk. There's some things that they are paying,
Sure.
of course. But yeah, for me, if I can't be successful, then I want to move over to something I can be successful with, and I want to be able to be released from my obligations there so I can be successful. But also, why should I be rewarded for a lack of success, which is something you and I were just talking about with CIOs and CTOs failing up.
It is so true. It's unfortunate, but it is true that, a lot of the companies, the CIOs, sometimes it surprises you when you see somebody in that role.
Yeah.
Because you have known them from the past, or you've seen certain things about them that were not so successful in the past.
Yeah.
But that's just the reality of things, unfortunately,
Yeah, I've had an organization where they asked me to come in and build some reports, and I went in. I'm like, okay, what's the ERP system? And they're like, well, we've got we are equity. We bought 7 companies, so we have 7 ERP systems.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, who's the CIO? Oh, here's the CIO. He's been here for 3 years. 3 years, yeah. I'm like, well, why hasn't he consolidated the ERP systems yet? He's like, well, we've tried to twice, and we failed both times. I'm like, and he's still the CIO? Like, what's going on? And I guess he knows where the bodies are buried or something. But so for you, you're saying we want to understand your goals, and then we tie our compensation to achieving those goals.
Absolutely, because so the way we look at ourselves is we call ourselves the AI execution ecosystem, right?
Okay.
And what we mean by that is specifically for 2 sets of customers, if you will, or 2 sets of folks we work with. One are mid-market companies defined as being between 50 million and a couple billion in annual revenue. Companies like that are usually in the supply chain of larger organizations, right? They could be part manufacturers, they could be an ecosystem player in a bigger financial services play. So usually they're pressed for resources, and they're pressed, especially now in the age of AI, for getting...
They have really tight margins and really high expectations of floor-level stocking agreements and thousands of SKUs and very complex operations.
Yep.
And the reward is there, but only if they achieve.
Meet that very fine line of success.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why we understand that going in, that they're under a lot of pressure. Right? They were always under a lot of pressure, but in the age of AI, they are under more pressure because companies that choose to experiment and be successful at those tend to evolve.
Yeah.
And those that don't, the burden of not doing that, or the cost of not doing that, is significantly higher now than it was a few years ago.
Yeah, and so for them to justify going to another consulting firm and hiring, do like a $3 or $4 million engagement, which the only thing that they're promising you from that is a report and an invoice.
Yeah, you can be sure about the invoice for sure.
Yeah, the delivery of the report is success for the project for them, and that report can have value, or maybe it doesn't have any value, but you're paying the invoice either way. Yeah. That could be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of these companies as mid-markets.
Absolutely, and it has been for a while when it comes to even traditional technology. Right, and now in the space of AI, firstly, I feel there's a lot of overuse and abuse of the term, which has cluttered the market. So even in terms of choices for the even informed people who are trying to keep track of what's happening in the market, there's so many developments every single day, whether it's a tool or a platform update or a new model. There's just too many choices out there. Right. So one is the sort of fog of war that's created by the choice that's in front of people. And the second is the actual execution. So let's assume you find something that you say is the right choice.
Yeah.
It's the implementation, as we were talking about earlier. Ideas are worth nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's really the execution of it. And so to take something and execute it in our opinion, it takes a combination of four things, right? It takes a combination of capital, and capital could be dilutive, non-dilutive, different ways of going about it, but it does take capital.
Can't execute strategy or even develop strategy if you can't afford to pay for it.
Absolutely. You need the fuel, right? So capital is the fuel. The second is strategy itself, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we were talking about this earlier. Some consulting companies offer strategy, which is defined as a set of decks.
Yeah.
There are case studies on other companies and a general, let me guide you through this.
Hire Bain and they can come and tell you what Amazon does. Or
Absolutely. Yeah.
And maybe it's right and maybe it's not. Maybe what Amazon does isn't what you need, but that's the engagement that you have.
Absolutely. So there's a disconnect there on the strategy piece, which is it's always an exchange of time for money. And it's an exchange for as long as you keep paying me, we'll keep doing this.
Yeah, for me, I'm trying to get out of the. So I have some businesses. I have a young family. Mm-hmm. My wife wants my time. I'm engaged in my church, and I want to spend time on that. And if somebody's standing there saying, "I want to buy your time," and my only way of exchanging something for money is time, then I don't own my own time anymore.
Absolutely.
So if you're coming here and saying time. It's a unit of measure that's important.
Yeah.
Time is literally the unit of measure of how our galaxy and solar system work. It is not necessarily a monetizable event. Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be. Yep.
We help you achieve your goals, and we tie a market value to the achieving of a goal, not the elapsing of time.
Absolutely.
The sun travels around the sun. The Earth travels around the sun. Give me X number of dollars. That's not what you do.
Not what we do at all. No, absolutely. So it's exactly that. Yeah. So capital, strategy, which is defined based on outcomes. Yeah. Solutions, which is the third piece. And so when I say solutions, I mean, it could be a specific part of a broader solution, or it could be the end-to-end solution, which we do with a lot of startups as well. And that's where we love companies like Controllo.
That's what we do, yeah.
And you guys are experts at what you do, and you built on ethics and built on core engineering principles. So companies like you stand out, and you'll continue to do those things phenomenally. So there's no point in us trying to recreate that wheel, right? Yeah. There's synergies, and therefore we partner with companies like yourself.
Yeah, and there's some aspects of strategy. If you want a data strategy or a process execution strategy, I can contribute to that. But so many times people come to me, I need a solution built. Yeah. Okay, awesome. What's your business strategy? What's your capital access? You mean I have to pay for it, and you need to know what you're going to build? You need a strategy? I'm like, yeah, I need to know what your goals are. I can't build a solution if you don't have a strategy, and you got to pay me. Yeah. So there's a lot of times there's a disconnect there.
Absolutely, and that's part of why and that's why it goes back to what we call ourselves the AI execution ecosystem, right? Mm-hmm. Because in this ecosystem, you have the obvious paying customers, which are your mid-market companies, your startups, etc. But to your point, because of the synergies that companies like us have, right? We're ecosystem partners in that. And there are others who specialize in very specific things. For example, there's a company we work with that does very unique things in computer vision, right? Mm-hmm. That's all they do. And so they go deep in that. And with companies that go deep in that.
And with AI of the physical world emerging so much, and it's so critical now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right? And so they've chosen to not dilute themselves, but they've chosen to be the best at that one thing.
I love it.
And so we have a lot of those companies in our ecosystem as well. And the idea being same thing. So if you have a capital need, if you have need for strategy, which most of them do, if you have the need to have effective solutions, especially in this fast evolving space of technology. And the fourth and final piece is research, right? Mm-hmm. So research was created to keep us honest. Research was not created to bring us money today, but research was created to look ahead of what's happening. Look 9 months out, 12 months out, 18 months out, right? Yeah. In the space of language models, in the space of, we were talking about this earlier, operating systems.
How can you develop a strategy if you don't know what's coming next?
Absolutely.
If you're basing your strategy only off of what exists today and what existed yesterday, that's not a strategy.
Absolutely. You're just reacting to something that is generally available to everybody.
Yeah, and in that world, if you can react fast, then you win. Yeah. But not if you won't beat somebody that's actually looking to the future and knowing what's next.
Absolutely. One of the things I take away from my time at Amazon is I think Jeff did many things phenomenally, but one of the things he did was he was always clear about, be clear on the vision, but flexible on the detail.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's that sort of long-term thinking from Amazon that sustained them over 35 plus years now and just keeps propelling them. And that's what we're trying to do here is have an eye out, because this is a long-term game, right? I think we're only at the very beginning of what is going to be the next curve in human evolution.
Yeah, we're I think in the middle of the next industrial revolution.
Absolutely.
And yes, there's going to be pain. Yes, this is going to be excitement.
Yeah.
No, we don't know exactly what tomorrow brings, but I think that 6, 9, 12 months in advance, we can have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a funny story. I was working for a jet manufacturing company based out of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah.
They're a French company. Anybody that's good at Googling can figure out who this is.
I guess that. Yeah.
They said that they make the French fighter jet. And I'm like, that's an oxymoron if I've ever heard it. I didn't like that joke. But they had two departments. They had the IT department, which I call the Never Change Anything department. And then they had the Business Transformation department, which I call the Always Change Everything department.
Yeah.
And somebody from the Always Change Everything department was walking, and they saw a line of people waiting to enter their work into a computer. And they thought, hey, if they had a card that they could use to open the computer, they could get in there faster, and that line would go where they could enter their work. So they thought, we need to replace the badges. Well, if we're going to replace the badges, then the guard's going to get mad. So we need to build a photo booth app. And that photo booth app can let somebody make their own badges. And then that badge can be used to let everybody in the factory log into the computer. And, the photo booth, it's too big, it won't fit in the guard booth. So let's tear down the guard booth. We're going to build a new guard booth. And then we're going to build this custom app because there's nothing on the market. We're going to integrate to all these systems. And then we're going to get everybody a new badge. The badge is $10 a piece. It's 4,000 employees. You can do the math. Yeah. And then we got to license this new software. And they went to work, and they spent like $400,000 building this photo booth app and integrating into their applications. And they tore down the guard booth. And then they built a new guard booth, which is bigger and more air conditioning and more cost. And then they came to me, and they're like, help me develop an ROI. I'm like, okay, so let me go out and find out how long people are waiting in line. Well, the IT department had seen that there was a problem and ordered 100 new computers, $300 a piece. Problem solved. Okay, you're not saving any money there. All right, well, you had two guards, one to accept the badge and then give it back to them. They no longer need to do that, right? Well, no, somebody still has to manually review the ID and FAA requirements. You need two guards. I'm like, okay, so you're not saving any money there. So the answer is no ROI.
Zero.
Negative, actually, because now you're paying licensing, you got a bigger booth, you got more equipment out there now. You have saved nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you go from problem to implementation with no strategy. Because somebody could have walked down to the IT department, hey, there's a line here. Oh, let me set up some laptops tomorrow. We'll reduce the size of the line while we install some permanent workstations. Yeah. And they spent $1 million on all this.
That's insane.
Insane. Pure insanity. And the guy who came up with it got a promotion. Failed
that's even more insane.
Yeah. And so there is this gap. Hey, if you come to me and say, hey, will you build something? I'm going to ask you, what's it for?
Yep.
What's your outcome? I'm sorry, I'm not building that. And I'm not going to do anybody any favors. We're not going to be a long-term client if I build you something stupid.
Yeah.
But I can't tell them, especially in an organization that size, it's a big organization, multinational, I can't help them develop a strategy that actually makes sense. That's where you come in.
Absolutely. And that's why the synergies are, right? And we talked about this earlier as well. One, in terms of mutual strengths, but also in outlook. That's a key differentiator as well, because when you look out in the market, and I feel bad for some of the customers we work with, because they've just been given really bad advice by companies with perhaps good intention, but didn't really work out well for the customer. Right?
Yeah.
And so the mission we're on, the broader mission we're on, is to create an ecosystem of like-minded companies that can all work together to drive outcomes in the new age of AI.
Awesome. Well, I hired a producer, and it turns out that I hired a boss, and his job
us
is to
honest.
keep me on
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah.
We are here at Dallas Startup Week. It is the final day of Dallas Startup Week, presented by the Debt Council. You're friends with some of those folks, I think.
I am,
So
yeah.
they just do an amazing job
They
supporting.
do. Yeah.
And-
Shout out to the deck in N10.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I went to the State of Entrepreneurship last year, and I saw Bank of America stand up and say, "We listened to the Debt Council, and these are the things we've built into our business suite." Responding to the needs of the entrepreneurs in North Texas, and that is the influence you have to. How can you do entrepreneurship alone? You can't.
No.
You shouldn't.
It's not a solo sport. Absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Debt Council is so critical in that. Dallas Startup Week is an amazing amazing place to meet people, and Adi, I've really appreciated.
Same here, Isaac. It's been a
meeting
pleasure.
you, and this is a good starting point for us. I think.
Absolutely is. Thank you for having
Awesome.
me. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it was free flow.